Hey guys, Luke here. Welcome back to another Sims 4 video on my channel. So today we're building the tiny overgrown forest hut, which was a clear win of a poll I did a few days ago. And you guys said you wanted to see this build here next, and so I finished it. It was basically done. I think it was even play tested, but just to be sure I play tested it again. And it's of course on the gallery if you want to download it. So this house is very small, as you guys can see. It's a hut. I called it a hut. It's just for one sim, and it also uses only one pack. So if you guys want to download this, it's the Werewolves expansion, which I like to use a lot, especially for builds like this one here. There's just so many cool plants included, and also this roof pattern here, which I like to use a lot, especially for abandoned looking builds, but also some like this one here, which are in a very, I would say, moist environment. We have a pond here, which you will see in a second, and I tried to merge the landscaping here with the environment because I built this in Copperdale, as you're probably aware. This is my favorite lot there. It's called Little Falls Nook. It's a 20 by 20, so if you guys want to place it in the same lot, it's also in the description below. So as I said before, I only used the Werewolves expansion and none of the objects from the high school expansion pack, which Copperdale comes with. So Copperdale is included in this pack, not in the Werewolves pack. But I wanted to build here because I don't like the world that comes with Werewolves, which is Moonwood Mill. And the reason for that is very dark. I can't see very well there, and I feel like the world is also very boring. I talked about the whole issue I have with the Moonwood Mill in a different video, but just to sum it up, it's dark, it's boring, it's generic, and I personally don't like it. Pack included some nice objects though, which was also the reason why I wanted to build with it, especially for builds like this one, of course, which also looks like a werewolf could live here in my opinion. So just a quick tip, if you're new to landscaping and find it hard to landscape in a way that the lot fits the environment, you can always use the plants and landscaping objects from the same pack the world comes with, because this way it's much easier to blend the lot with the environment, and I find it very helpful. I heard that from somebody, I can't remember, I think it was just a short video, but I found it very helpful, and I was like, why did I never think about that? So I want to give you guys this tip, credit to, I don't know, I can't remember, I'm sorry. This tip is so basic and yet so useful, so I hope you guys can use it for your own builds. But I think it became less of an issue with newer packs like Werewolves and High School, because the different shades of green kind of match each other now, at least some of the plants, which we didn't always have. There are some packs, I don't know which exactly, but I think it's Seasons. I don't know, Seasons is always in my head, but I think the plants from Seasons have a very specific shade of green. It's a lighter one. Some of them even look a bit yellowish, which is cool. I like that. They're just very hard to use with different packs for some reason. I don't know, I find it very hard to use them together. But sometimes you have the same problem with plants from the same pack. For example, it's not a pack, it's base game, but sometimes I'd like to use a specific plant, but I can't because the shades of green don't match, which is sometimes a bit annoying. So the landscaping here was a lot of fun. It felt easy, which is not always the case, because with like more overgrown builds like this one, I don't have to care too much about where your sims can walk, because this is basically a forest. And it also doesn't matter if it's symmetrical, it just has to look right. So a lot of the plants here are also from base game. I also use some of the fences and these very nice looking mossy rocks here, and also these stone slabs here to create this little path here to the cabin or hut or whatever you want to call it. So the exterior and landscaping didn't take too much time, as you guys can see. I also didn't use too much terrain paint here because we have this very big pond here, which takes up the majority of the lot. Basically it's only a 20 by 20, so it's very small, but I think it's the right size for this type of build here. And at this point I started furnishing the interior here, so I was basically just figuring out where to put everything. We don't really have a layout here because at this point it's basically just one room. I added the bathroom later on because the house was so small and it felt a bit cramped, so I decided to add another huge window here, for which I used 4 smaller ones, as you guys can see, and this is the kitchen area. It's a bit of a shame that Werewolves doesn't include a kitchen, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it would have been nice if they had some appliances here, because I'm kind of sick of using this stove here and the fridge, because for the more rustic builds there is basically nothing else that fits. And I like it in general, but I don't like to use it all the time, and I think it's also kind of boring for you guys. And the fact that it only has 3 different swatches doesn't improve the situation here. We have the black one, which I think is the best one, but I wanted to use a different one here, so I decided to go for the more, I don't know, rusty looking one. I would say this one here is rusty. And then there's also a white one, which I think also looks very nice, but again, I don't want to use the same object over and over. This is also a problem I have with the swatches in general, because for the more basic colors like brown, black and white, for example, also gray, the shades simply don't match, so it looks off. Sometimes even with objects from the same pack, which is even more annoying. This makes it very hard to combine certain objects which would look very nice together, but the colors simply don't match, or at least the shades don't match. And as I said before, this is also a problem with base game objects, because one of my newer builds is base game and it was very hard to furnish it because I was going for a very clean look, all in white, very elegant, and it was very hard to find white objects that had kind of the same shade because they all looked a bit different. And this really bothers me because if I remember correctly, in Sims 3 we had a color wheel. Correct me if I'm wrong here in the comments below, but I think you could choose basically any color you wanted. It even worked with different patterns. It's been a while since I played Sims 3, but I occasionally think about the color wheel option, and I'm not sure we don't have it in Sims 4 because this game is already 10 years old and it feels like such a basic feature which should have been there from the start. And I think the problem now is that we have so many objects from so many different packs that it would probably be a lot of work to include this option for every pack, which arises the question, why wasn't it there from the start? So I'm a bit annoyed, to be honest. It's not so much of a problem for builds like this one here, which are more rustic looking, so it kind of makes sense that there are different shades of brown and different types of wood included, which I like for this build. But it's kind of frustrating if you want a more uniform look, where the shade should always be the same, and you want to use, for example, a certain stove or a certain fridge, and it just doesn't fit the overall shade of white or black or whatever you're going for. So color wheel would be a nice addition in my opinion, but I'm pretty sure they will never include that in the game. So most importantly, because it's a lot of work, but I also feel like the developers don't really care because the game is selling anyway. So I haven't really looked into it, but I'm pretty sure there are mods out there that allow you to change the color of objects, not necessarily like a color wheel, but something similar. But I don't really want to use these because I upload my builds to the gallery, as you guys know, which is also the reason why I don't use custom content, because if you guys don't have the objects, they will get deleted or replaced by something from base game, for example. And I think the same problem applies with adding new colors and patterns, because if you don't have them, they will get removed or replaced. Again, let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Rant is over now because we're almost at the end of the video. So as I said before, you guys voted for this build to be the next upload, and I wanted to ask you guys if you want to do this more frequently, because this kind of helps me to upload more consistently, because I have to commit to finishing a build, which is not always easy for me, because this week I worked on I think 5 different builds which are all almost finished. And the reason for that is I start building because I have an idea or because I want to finish a build, but then I encounter some problems and then I stop building and work on a different build. And this is the reason why some of the builds never get finished. I recently started this series called Unfinished Builds. I'm not sure if you guys have seen any of the videos yet, but I wanted to share these builds in their unfinished state because some of them might never get finished, and one of you guys suggested to upload them as shorts, which was a great idea because I think there's not enough content for a whole video, but this way I can at least show you guys the build even if it never gets finished. If you have any requests for specific builds, please feel free to leave them in the comments below and I will take them into consideration. And with that, we're at the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing for more if you're new to the channel. So as I said before, the build is in the gallery, and if you want to download it, my ID is in the description below as always. I also put the lot there if you want to place it on the same one as I did here. Again, thank you so much for watching, and now here's the finished build. See you guys next time. Peace out.